friends, got a little one for you today. I'm often asked in cross stitch, what can you do with your finished cross stitch pieces besides hanging them on the wall? And the answer is a lot of stuff, actually. I've got some smaller examples here, and for the larger examples, I'll put them up on the screen. One thing that I like to do with small pieces is finish them as keychains. I finished this one, sewed in a little jump ring. It's quite securely connected. So this could become a backpack keychain, zipper pull, something like that. I did the same thing for this piece, but what I did with this one is I attached it to a needle threader and put a magnet on the back. So this is actually for Toot. She keeps this magnet attached to her cross stitch stand, and then she always has a needle threader close at hand. Similar to a needle threader fob, you could also do a scissor fob. This is a scissor fob. The pattern for this will be available in my store at some point. But again, it's just a very simple little cross stitch piece sewed a jump ring in with a chain, and then this end will attach to your pair of scissors. So that's one thing you can do. Very popular is pin cushions, especially bicornu, biscornu. Not incredibly sure how to pronounce it. I say bicornu. It's this little kind of 8-sided pin cushion, this shape, and you can do them in a range of size and shapes. They're very fun to do, and of course any other shape of pin cushion as well. I've seen some really cute ones in the shape of pumpkins and witches' hats and Christmas ornaments and that kind of thing. Another thing I like to make is needle books. This is my needle book, so it stores my needles, and I cross-stitched the cover and sewed it all together. Some other things that you can do on a larger scale, you can use them to decorate greeting cards. You could decorate the top of a box, side of a box. People use them as patches for clothes, even doing large motifs on clothes or bags, things like that. Of course, you can frame them. There's all kinds of things that you can do with cross stitch as a decorative piece. And today what I'm going to do with you is actually take this small piece that Toot and I finished. This is my June freebie for the month of June 2024. If you head on over to the coffee shop, which is linked in the description below, you can pick up this pattern for free. It has 5 sets of pronouns and then one that says ask me, and 6 different color palettes to choose from. The back stitching is completely optional. It just depends on the colors that you choose and what kind of contrast you want. So for this piece today, we are going to be turning this into a pin or a badge. So let me show you how I do that. So the materials that I'm going to need is some floss. I'm going to use the same floss that this dark outline on the piece is done. Some pin backs. You can get these at any craft store. You can get them online. Gorilla Glue. I love Gorilla Glue. And a piece of felt. I was hoping that I had a piece of purple felt in stash. I do not. This is a bit of a stiffer felt. I got this, I think, from the dollar store, just in a pack of like 50 of these sheets. Softer felt would work as well. So what I'm going to do is we are going to take our small piece here and basically sew it, backstitch around it, attaching it to the stiffer felt backing, which is what I did with these pieces. You can, of course, make sure that your stitches are neater than mine. I just don't really care that much. And in order to do this, you are going to want a sharp sewing needle in order to get through the felt as well. All right, so I'm going to speed this next bit up and we'll see you on the other side. as you can see, my sewing got a little bit cattywampus on the piece of felt, but that's fine. If you want to use some fabric clips or binder clips or pins to keep it in place, totally up to you, as long as the entire back is covered. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to be trimming it. So when you are sewing, be cognizant of the fact that you are going to be trimming it, especially in areas like this down here. If I'd been backstitching this normally, the running stitch on the back would have gone from this point to this point, which isn't really going to work if you're going to cut a triangle out there. So as you can see, I doubled back on myself so that I wouldn't be going across that space that I'm later going to be trimming. So you're just going to take a pair of scissors and you're going to trim as close as you're comfortable to the back stitch line. I usually go about 1 block away. You can go 2 or 3, or really as much as you would like. In a piece like this that's not very right angly, I'm less worried about fraying threads. So I'm going to get pretty close, and there we see I'm cutting into that spot where there would have been the running thread. So just make sure that you're not going to cut into the back of your stitches, because then they might come loose. And I'm cutting through both layers of fabric, through the Aida as well as the felt. So you can definitely do this trimming before you sew the 2 layers together. I like to do the back stitch first because then I have more fabric to hold on to, and basically more room for error in my sewing, and also it makes it easier to cut out when you have that line to follow. Okay. Great, so here we go. Here we have our finished moth, and like I said, we're going to turn this into a pin. So I'm going to just take one of my pin backs here. So I'm just going to take one of these pin backs here. And it's a pretty standard craft pin back. It's got this flat area here, and then here's the actual pin that will attach it to the shirt or the bag or whatever. So I'm just going to flip it over, and I'm just going to use Gorilla Glue to attach this pin back here. Because there are these holes, you can sew it down. If you are going to sew, I'd recommend sewing it to the felt before you sew the felt to the Aida, and that way all of your stitches will be hidden between the 2 layers of fabric. However, we all know how I feel about sewing. Glue works just as well. Hot glue works. Fabric glue works. I'm just a little bit too impatient for fabric glue because it needs time to set. So I use a little bit of super glue. Just a little bit, because the super glue does tend to stain fabrics. So don't use it on anything that's going to go through. It's also quite porous, so it'll soak in quite rapidly. So I'm just going to hold these together. Close this up so none of the cats get into it. And I'm just going to let that sit. I'm going to hold it in place for about 30 seconds. Alright, so that should be stuck. I'm not going to mess with it though. I'm going to leave it to dry completely. But there you go. That's one way to finish a small cross stitch piece. Again, the patterns for these pronoun moths are available as a freebie in my coffee shop. The link is down below. If you do end up making one of your own, I would love to see it. I'd love to see what colors you chose, what pronouns you chose. Yeah. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions for future videos, any tutorials you'd like to see, any questions you'd like to see answered, there's also a link for the suggestion box down below. The suggestion box is just a simple little form you can fill out if you have any ideas for videos, streams, cross-stitch patterns, anything to do with the Cozy DH community. Go ahead and leave it in the suggestion box. And until next time, my friends, I will see you in my mothy heart.